From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, it's great to be back. How are you today?
Doing great, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I always enjoy our conversations, and it's great that we have a little bit of time to catch up and also talk about things that we're passionate about. Um,
Yep.
Today you and I are both kind of in a position now where not only do we rely on our own work, but we also have to rely on other people. And we're also involved in selecting some of those people and getting and building a team and understanding what goes into that. So I thought, well, when we were exploring ideas, it might be nice for us to share some of the criteria or what we think that we look for when we're hiring somebody, and when we're building our team and we're bringing people on board. And there's no right or wrong answer to this because it depends on your organization and your need and so on and so forth. But it's been something that I've been trying to do for quite some time, in building my team. I mean, it's a totally different skill set than learning to program and being good at programming. And so I'll kind of put it on the table when I know that this is something that you've had to probably ramp up fairly quickly on recently. What are some of the lessons that you've learned as you've developed a team, and what are some things that you look for?
So first up, I'm always learning. I'm always adjusting. But I think two key things I always try to look for is I listen and I see where they're coming from. So I know a lot of times managers are gonna look at the technical side. You want someone who knows Python. You want someone who knows one of the programming language. Strong in this, strong in that. I look for someone with customer service experience. Because you know what? Especially if they work in food industry, if you mess up someone's food order, they're very upset. So that's very vital to be able to handle customer service end of it. Technical stuff you can teach. Another thing, something I just kind of took on recently is really listening and understanding how they process things. And it kind of reminds me of a story I just listened to on a leadership podcast. Was this kindergarten kid came home and is like, Mom, in math today, or in school today, I learned 3 is half of 8. Mom's like, wait, what? I didn't hear you right. What did you say? The kid, repeat. School today, I learned 3 is half of 8. Mom, who was a retired teacher, is like, no, that's not right. Sat down with her child and did the math and goes, see, like she took out some M&Ms. She put 8 on the table, split them in half, and say, count here. And he's like, well, there's 4 there, 4 on this side. And she's like, see, 3 is not half of 8, it's 4. But he's like, no, Mom, you don't understand. So he took out a piece of paper and drew the number 8 and folded the paper in half. It was a whole different way of thinking about the problem. And the mom wasn't listening fully and understanding where it's coming from, where the child was coming from. So yes, 4 is half of 8, but so is 3, and so is 0. It's all how you look at it and how you're defining the problem. And so that's where you got to start listening, understanding where you're talking to your potential team member or your potential employer or employee, and understanding where they're coming from, and if they are they coming from it with a different mindset. Because we always said this from day one: programmers are a unique breed. Do they have that mind of a programmer?
Yeah, I really like that a lot. I'm probably going to use that in some talk or presentation or something. I think that's a really great, a good, perfect example. It's so understandable. I agree with you there. There's a big adage: you could always teach skills, but you can't teach attitude. And I think that that probably comes into play there. And you and I have talked quite a bit about the value of professional skills and having a more well-rounded makeup, not just being able to write code, because we have to interact with other people. And when you write code, and if you think that you are going, that's the only thing that you're going to have to do, there aren't that many roles or jobs in, at least in our industry, that allow you to do that full time. There's always going to be other aspects of the job that you're going to have to do. And so I think that we're certainly on the same page there. The skill set, I think, is certainly a requirement, but demonstrating capability is also a requirement. And I think, we're probably going back to almost episode one, we've talked about, are you passionate about doing this? And is it something that you enjoy and that you would do if you weren't getting paid to do it? And I think that that a lot of times is a good sign of somebody who can be a very happy programmer. And I think that that's part of this too, is that it doesn't always matter how good you are, is if you're not going to be happy in the job that you're doing.
Yes, that I think is very vital to any job, not just a programmer, is your mental health and are you truly enjoying what you're doing? Because when you're enjoying what you're doing and you have a good culture around you and a support system around you, you're going to excel. Especially if you're in programming, you're going to tackle a new language. If Especially if you're tackling a new language, you're going to be frustrated in the beginning because you don't understand it and you got some learning curve there. But if your environment around you is difficult and you don't have a support structure, that makes it worse. It makes it no fun. You're like, why am I doing this? Having that support system, the culture around you is very vital, not just in work, but actually at home as well, especially for programmers, because, we deal with complicated problems that we need to solve.
There's a lot that I've learned too from some people who really need to be heads down and focused and doing things. And again, we're probably going to say this all episode. If you listen back in our catalog, we've talked about many of these topics in different different episodes and in different contexts. But a programmer needs to be able to concentrate, and they need to be able to work through things and be given space to do so, but also have to have that commitment to see something through. Um, are there any specific criteria? So if somebody were looking for a job, or trying to prepare themselves, is there anything that you would recommend, or some a couple of things that you might normally look for?
Willingness to learn. I besides being someone in customer service side, because again, the people I'm more hiring right now in my role are people who will be interacting with customers. So I definitely need someone who's strong customers service side, but the eagerness to learn, because that shows that whatever problem is put in front of them, they're going to tackle it their way, but they're going to tackle it. Now, you hope it's a valuable way and improves, and you're going to make mistakes with hiring people. Not everyone's going to be great. Some people are very good at interviews and don't perform well, and they're just very good at, I hate using this word, but BSing interviews. Um, but then there are other people who are very strong technically and horrible in interview, but they're willing to learn, they're willing to develop. So that, again, going back to listening and not using filters to kick people out, but showing that you're willing to learn. I know I'm going around in circles here, but that willingness to learn is very vital. Like, I know it helped me in my career, because when I got hired, one of my roles in my first job at a college, one of my roles was doing CCTV cameras. I never touched a security camera in my life. But my boss, he was like, look, one of your main roles is going to be handling our cameras. I'm like, okay, no problem. When I got thrown on the AV side, I was told I'm going to be helping the AV guy. It's like one of the roles that are like, you're going to help program the systems. I never did anything AV wise. I'm like, okay, no problem. I had that willingness to learn and I developed from that. And having that ability to say, hey, I'm going to tackle this problem in front of me and move forward is what needs to be done.
And so I think taking that one step further, and this may be hard thing, would be to show, either be armed with ways to um, demonstrate or speak to that, some past experience where you've done that. And if that's a key selling point, you want to be able to back that up by not just saying, yes, I will learn, but here's how I've done it in the past. Here's how
Yep.
I have learned. And these are some ways that I have taken on and added responsibility, or done something that I wasn't necessarily um, trained to do originally, but I mastered it because I put my mind to it.
No, I think that's great advice. And uh, do know our listeners, and I know I said this before, don't get frustrated as you grow, because as the saying goes, if mountains were smooth, we wouldn't be able to climb them. So you're going to hit rough paths. You're going to have a hard time. Just know it that it's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you a better programmer and a better employee.
I want to, kind of wrap around, because we started talking about it, from a team perspective. I think the whole definition of team is working together, and so I think that's important too, to be able to show how you can help the other people that you work with, and that you're that it's not an individual sport, but it's something where we're working together for a common goal, and that it's the that your value is in being able to make the people around you better, as much as it is to be able to demonstrate your abilities. And it certainly doesn't hurt to make it known that how much you really want the job, or you want, or your or why you're very interested in pursuing a particular career or opportunity, and being able to speak to that, I think, is really critical.
Yeah, I think you hit a good topic there, is being a team player. Very valuable. Because even though we talked about that sometimes we feel like we're on an island, we are never on an island alone. We either have a supervisor, we either have a coworker. We got to work as a team, and it, you know, team sports are teams that are always played together well do better than the teams that are full of stars that don't play well together.
And not that we're trying to make this episode about trying to find a new job, but it's but we're but in terms of furthering your career, it's really important to put yourself out there, as we always discuss, and be and get some name recognition, and be able to have um, a resume that backs up who you are, and that but it's really you. And this is not always something that comes naturally to a programmer, but it's up to you to sell yourself.
Yes, and one, AV people are horrible at selling themselves because what we are the background people. Programmers are even worse. We are farther in the back. So yes, you have to learn to sell yourself. Uh, I mean, we're not always the ones wearing hoodies in the back of the closet with a computer screen. Sometimes you got to come out in the light and show your value to the people around you, because otherwise, like, yeah, as you mentioned, we're not here saying, hey, go look for a new job, but sometimes you need to be recognized that you're either going to get that promotion or you're going to get a better team or you might need that different job.
And I think really being dedicated to saying this is the job that I want, not just that I'm looking for any job. This is the job, and this is the reason why. And I just have to comment that we used to use the analogy that it would be a programmer sitting in their basement in their boxers, so that I think we may have been elevated by going into the utility closet with a hoodie. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Definitely put the pants on.
Well, that's probably a good place for us to wrap this one up, and hopefully there's some valuable gems there and a little bit of humor. But reach out to both James and me. We'd be glad to help you. We'd be glad to answer questions and continue this conversation. I think it's an important topic, and um, not everybody has the uh, always gets this type of insight to be able to find ways to further themselves. And, having a mentor or somebody that could help guide you, I think it may be one of the most valuable pieces of it. But James, how could people get in touch with you and hear more about all of your contributions to the industry?
As always, you can reach out, and as Steve said, definitely reach out. I'll help anyone I can, however I can. So definitely reach out. AV_James King on Twitter. I am on LinkedIn. Don't use it much, but I'm there. You Google me, you'll find me. I'm everywhere.
And that's only because he's applied himself and put himself out there. So for me, you could reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. Twitter and LinkedIn are probably the ones that I use the most, and do some writing both for publications at AV Network and Commercial Integrator and SCN, as well as my company blog at controlconcepts.net. Also have I have to kind of pitch or plug that my other podcast that I do with Rich Ragoza on avnation.tv is approaching our 100th episode, and it's probably going to be timed close to this one coming out. So check out A State of Control there, and I think we're going to have some fun on that episode. And if you don't already know of it, it speaks to a lot of similar topics for this audience. So, but with that said, if you want to find out more about us, check out our podcast here on your favorite player, as well as the video on YouTube. And we'd like to hear from you. So please reach out to us. And that's what we have for today. And this has been Ask the Programmer.